Okay,
That was a good lunch.
there we go.
We'll have to do that more often. Break lunch. That's what we do.
You are listening to the most original talk radio station anywhere. We are LA Talk Radio at latalkradio.com.
You're listening to Fouché Way with Brandon Fouché, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Well, good evening, and welcome to the Fouché Way radio show, live every Thursday at 1 o'clock p.m., sponsored by the nonprofit organization called Canine Hope for Improvement Program, where we hope to improve the quality of our dogs' lives by moving towards a no-kill society. The number here is 818-602-4929. Well, if you could imagine the tragedy of death in a classical sense, with events moving in a direction leading to a particular end, then the death by cancer would hit each and every note. I have a friend of mine, her name is Jenny, who has fought and won the battle with cancer. And I'm happy because she has made it. And she has become a good friend of mine. And if she had not won that battle, then we would not be friends today. But I have an uncle. His name is Uncle Daryl, who is losing that same battle. And the doctors are looking that he may have 7 or 8 months. I hope they're wrong. I really hope that they're wrong. And now I have lost 2 very close canine companions this weekend. And I would like to mention that each and every one of you will have to go through death if you have a pet. The death of your dog or euthanasia. And you know what's interesting? My friend Julia Pennington says the institutions say euthanasia, but euthanasia is when an animal is suffering beyond healing that animal from the pain. Killing is what's really happening, not euthanasia. And regardless of what you think, there is a difference. And my 2 canines were dying from organ failure due to cancer, and that's hard to watch with someone you love. I have had dogs that have to be put down on the operating table because they weren't going to make it. And that's tough to watch, man. But I can't expect this. I can expect it because it's nature calling them back. But what I can't accept is the killing of dogs because you're unwilling to be a little uncomfortable by doing this work. You're unwilling to alter your life a little to save the life of the one you once loved. That's incomprehensible to me. And then I realized that the institutions that house dogs don't feel it's their job or business to educate people. They should possess supreme knowledge about the behavior of dogs. I mean, they're housing them, man. And have the absolute power, which is what they have, to kill them. I have known people whose dogs have gotten out and they end up in the institutions and somehow they never see their owners again. Or I've seen independent rescuers who get them and don't want to give them back for whatever reason, and then the rescuer ends up becoming a hoarder. I mean, what's happening, man? Nobody's working together. It's like we're living in a Steven Spielberg horror movie. Then we got the media going around frightening people, making them feel they're in danger of the pit bull, and acting like there is an epidemic of a zombie pit bull on the loose. It's just a dog, man. Every power breed has had its day. The Rottweiler had its day. The German Shepherd had its day. The Doberman Pinscher had its day. And that's just to name a few. All the breeds have had irresponsible owners. What's new about it? And what's next? I mean, what's coming after the pit bull? Because there's something that's coming after that. I don't know, maybe somebody's going to mix a hyena or something, then we got everybody running around scared. What I'm really saying here, man, is that I have always been here with this problem. We have always had this problem with dogs, and it has always passed. But what hasn't changed is how we raise our dogs. I mean, the lessons that we teach them that they will take into their adult years. See, when a wolf is born, the lesson the mother and the pack teach it is to become a good hunter. Because if you can't hunt, what good are you? You won't survive, and you can't help the survival of the pack. And so you're useless. That's why the history of evolution when it comes to predatory behavior is so strong in the dog. It's always going to be there. We just can't get away from it. But the mind of the dog, with its simplicity, yet it's complexed. It has a uniqueness for sensing human intentions. And in this uniqueness of relationship, we can shape the biology of the behavior. The scientists are just now beginning to understand this possibility. And it is known that of all the animals, its ability to decipher human gestures is far beyond any animal we choose to keep close to us, even better than the chimpanzee. And the scientists have found that it is a gene. It is a gene that is shaped by humans that humanize their dogs. Now that's fascinating because we've always been told that we should not humanize our dogs. We have always been told that we should not. I believe that we should have went deeper in the humanizing of them. That's why I believe that rehabilitation is possible, yet complicated, all because of us. See, we didn't realize that it was possible to shape the dog's genes, so we neglected to see it. But we felt something. We felt it. And we didn't understand what we were feeling. So we interpreted it as love. Our interpretation of love as a human. But it was the gene that we shaped that we were sensing. Oh, man, this is deep. This is why we got to hang in there. It's coming, man. It won't be long before all things are clear. The scientists are working on it right now. I've been on it. I've been on it every day. I see it every day. That's why I say, what's new about it? It's a little problem that we're having with the dogs today. If we could get enough people together who believed and practiced this, you'd be surprised, man, that you will blow minds. I mean, I do it every day. I see it with my own dogs, man. I see it with each and every one of my dogs that have passed. And if I could thank them every day for the rest of my life, it would not be enough to repay the debt that they have shown me. It would not be enough. They've given me a glimpse into the unseen, and they have revealed to me what I am revealing to people, bit by bit. That's why I say to my clients, hold on, it's coming. You can't handle all this at once. It comes in stages. It's come to me in stages. My clients are still having problems with trying to stop saying sit, stay, come, and heal, let alone trying to understand why they shouldn't be saying it in the first place. So, we're just going to keep moving. We're going to keep moving with this. And this is why we have people who come on this show to reveal to others what they have seen, the light at the end of the tunnel, and what it has revealed to them. Even though they know that they have a road to go, it's bearable because they do see that light. And with that, I'm going to bring on my first guest today. His name is Johnny, and his challenges with Riku. Johnny, are you there?
Yes, hi. Thanks, Brandon, for having me on the show.
Not a problem, man. It's actually my pleasure to have you on because, I wanted to tell our listeners if they were to check my Facebook page, I want them to take a look at the toys that you've given your dog. I had a friend of mine said, wow, he could have opened his own Petco with the toys that he's given his dog.
We had a lot of toys, that's for sure.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us about your dog and where you were before you came to me and what made you feel that you need to come to me?
Well, I rescued Riku at about 6 months, and he is a Dutch Shepherd Pit Bull mix. He's a great dog and full of life and lots of energy, and which I was fine with because I'm a pretty active guy myself. And we spent a lot of time at the dog park because he loves to wrestle and play, and he would get along with everyone. He was a great dog and super friendly to people, and I just felt like I was so lucky to score a dog like this, rescue a dog like, because you never know when you rescue a dog and the issues they're going to have. And Riku was just great, and so I spent a lot of time with him, training him because he's so smart, and just with the toys, and I taught him how to retrieve, and he loves the tug toy, so we're playing with that all the time. He was pretty spoiled, and but he behaved so well. He didn't chew the couch. He didn't, he wasn't excessively barking. He was a good dog. He knew when to play and knew when to relax. And so, like I said, I really felt like I scored with this dog. And as time went on and he got a little older, I noticed he was starting to become like a teenager and kind of bullying some of the dogs at the dog park because now he's much bigger, much stronger, and everything I was doing was working. He was becoming a super dog, and I kind of saw this happening, but didn't really, I know he plays a little rough, but nothing ever really happened. So I didn't think much of it. He's a really good dog, and so the next thing that happened was my brother was going to get a dog. We lived together. He's bringing home a puppy, a 10-week-old puppy, and to the house. And so I thought, great, they could play together. He's played with puppies at the dog park, not an issue. This is going to be great. And they did at first. And it was really cool to see Riku, roll over and let Jake, is the dog's name, dominate him a little bit. And it was really cute. My brother and I were pretty stoked. And so from there, we thought everything was okay. And meanwhile, I had taught my dog how to retrieve because he wasn't much of a retriever. So I thought I needed to do more tricks, more of the games to keep him stimulated. And because we do the bike rides and, the running and the dog park, but I needed more because he's such a high-energy dog. I thought, well, if I do these, all this training, he'll listen to me and I'll have complete control over the dog and we're good. So long story short, he ended up nipping the puppy. And it was over food in the kitchen. He'd walk by Riku having his food, and Riku, bit him on the nose. So my brother and I were like, whoa, that's new. I mean, I've held the bowl. He sits and waits before I give it to him. There's never been a food issue. So we were thinking, it's a new puppy. It's territorial. And I did notice, like I said, he was starting to dominate some of the dogs at the dog park, and so I saw the shift, but didn't really grasp fully what was going on. And then he was at my parents' house with my niece's dog. It's a Chihuahua, and Riku the Chihuahua was playing with something in the yard, and Riku ran over there to take it away from him. Well, the Chihuahua was like 8 years old and full of piss and vinegar, so it barked back and wouldn't, and stood its ground. Well, Riku just chomped right in onto him and ended up sending, Bentley is his name, to the hospital, surgery, the whole 9 yards. and it was a nightmare.
Right.
So that's where it really kicked in. I'm like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
He's possessive of anything. It could be a rock, a toy, anything. He's just, this is where he's at. And it just went bad to really bad. And from there, I hadn't gotten the muzzle yet, but I was, very conscious of, what could happen. And had him back here. And, of course, my brother with the new puppy was there. We're like, oh, we need to keep him separated so this doesn't happen to Jake. Well, things have been going pretty good, minus the separation. And, we've gone on walks together and, with Jake and Riku, and things were okay. And I was away at the time, and my brother was watching the dogs, and they had just gone on a walk, and then they were in the yard. A friend of Riku's came over, Bones, and they were playing, and Jake was in there playing in the yard, 3 of them, everything was good. And then they were kind of ganging up on Bones, and then it switched, and I think Jake had wanted to play with Riku and put his paw on Riku's back. And Riku turned and chomped on Jake. Mm-hmm. Same thing, stitches, surgery, the cone. Here we go again. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's happened twice.
Right.
So now I'm like, I knew I had to do something, but like I'm not sure what I have to do. But this is I can't believe my killer dog is turned into literally a killer dog. Mm-hmm. So we ended up getting the muzzle, and that way, for safety reasons. And then my brother heard through one of his friends, about you, Brandon, and started doing some research and came to me and said, John, this is the guy, man. We need to go see him. This is exactly what he does. All the dogs he works with, they're just like Riku.
Yeah.
And so that's how we, got in with you. And we did drop the dogs off. We dropped both dogs off, Jake and Riku, and you evaluated them. And thank you for, spending so much time with us that day. My brother and I were just so stoked to get all that information, and it was awesome. And so that's how it started.
Yeah. I wanted to have you on to tell this story, but, sometimes people can come in and they get the information that can carry them to the next level. That's what I mean by bits and pieces. When you get it, it takes you to the next level. And it was like a light bulb went off with you, because when you went home, because what I do has to transcend when you go home. You have to be able to have the same success. Otherwise, what good is it, And you didn't call me back right away. I usually like people to call right away. You gave me a call, but then I didn't hear from you. You gave me a call back. But I know the reason, when you called me, you said the reason that you didn't is because things were going great. But what I want you to talk about is, how does this make you feel knowing this information now that you were missing before?
Well, you had given me the information, and I went home and I claimed the yard, and then I claimed my house.
I got the majority of it done.
And having that information it made me feel really good. Mm-hmm. It made me feel really good because I knew I had the answer. And like I said to you before, my brother and I, we get it. We got it. And we were just like, wow, this I can't believe nobody knows about this. There's a solution here, and it makes sense. Yeah. I need to be the alpha, and so I need to go home and claim it and own up to it, which was great. The problem was it's a lot harder to do, especially with it would have been easier if my dog was just a straight, pain in the ass dog.
Right.
He wasn't. She's a well-behaved, good dog. He just has some issues. And so it made it harder for me to discipline my dog and not do all the tricks. I mean, all day long, he goes everywhere with me to work and everywhere. So I'm talking to the dog all day long. He's waiting for a response all day long. So we have this relationship, and now I can't talk to him. We can't play tug. Every move I make, this dog was there by my side.
Right.
So it was very difficult for me, but like as my brother says, you're much better at this than I am. I can be a jerk to my dog because I'm just, that's how I am. You know what I mean? I'm very stern. So it was a little easier for me, but yeah, a real struggle because of the vocabulary and just speaking to my dog, come, sit, stay, boogie, all of the things, you know, these tricks that I've taught him. It was difficult, and the only thing that really kept me moving forward was it was working. Like right away, I couldn't believe it.
Good.
And that's, yeah, and you know, I didn't call right back and tell you. Things were good. Things are still going good, and yeah, he responded really well to what you had told me to do.
Good.
And of course, it wasn't just me that has to do this, and that is where it becomes a little difficult. Is everybody that comes in contact with Riku has to do the same thing. So my coworker at work, I had to give him the lowdown. Don't talk to the dog. Don't acknowledge the dog. You know, it's been a difficult several weeks here. However, he's such a smart dog. He gets it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And numerous people have said to me, he's a different dog. So that is just, you know, I'm so happy to hear that. And just from what I've seen, he's becoming a different dog, the dog that we want, a well-balanced dog. Before, he was always waiting and, you know, and so frustrating. And now he's more balanced, and and it just makes sense, you know, me playing that alpha role. And yeah, I feel like I have like so much control. It's empowering. And just to let everybody know out there that, yeah, it truly is. It's just a choice.
Yeah, it's
you know,
a choice.
I made this choice, just like, you know, quitting drinking or doing drugs. It's like you make the choice.
There you go.
There is help, and there is another way. And I made a choice, and I'm following through with it, just like, you know, anybody would. And it's difficult. Of course, it's difficult. Everything in life is, but it's working. And you know, like I mentioned earlier, I had a successful day at the beach. You know, I didn't have the muzzle on, and just from my commands, and every time he would go towards the dog with a ball out into the ocean, I just call him away and just kept moving, and he wasn't as obsessed like he used to be. So it is working, and we have a little bit of freedom, and you know, of course, it's a long road, but we're getting there.
Yeah, but you're getting there. And you know, with that, I want to bring in another one of our callers, Catherine. Catherine, are you there?
I'm here.
Hi. And Catherine is a DVM, a doctor of veterinary medicine, and she probably, Johnny, gets a lot of dogs like your dog that come in that are absolutely spoiled by their owners, given everything, you know, and they got to deal with this. And sometimes, if they don't know the history, which Catherine, you know, she's has a history with working with dogs like this, then a lot of doctors that I know of try to prescribe medication to stop aggression. And what I have found is it's not about the medication. It's about you stepping up to be who you're supposed to be so that the hormones begin to work properly within the dog. You know? And so, Catherine, I want you to tell the people, Catherine, how you came to me, because you have two beautiful dogs that are pit bull mixes. And tell our listeners what was happening.
Well, went to the shelter after my husband and I lost our Chow Chow, 18 years. He decided we're going to get two dogs. We want to get two siblings so they can keep each other company. So we went to the shelter. There were three in that litter. We took the two brother and a sister that were playing together. Hindsight is 20/20. At the time, I looked at it and I said, they're playing together, but there's something else going on here, but I just kind of watched it over. Well, we went for about 3 months. They were about 4 months when we got them, spayed and neutered everybody. Everything was going fine. They were doing the rough puppy play, you know, with the growling and everything that everybody always expects. Well, one Sunday, our neighbor behind us that lives behind us was coming through the front door, So I was headed to the back of the house, and I remember thinking, gosh, it's quiet out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I opened the back door to see them both standing on hind legs, brother and sister. The brother had his sister's ear and her collar in his mouth. She's bleeding, he's bleeding. And I went, oh, my God. So our neighbor was coming to tell us that the dogs were fighting.
Mm.
So went out there, broke it up, threw everybody in the tub, assessed the damage, brought them to work the next day, stapled everybody up, put everybody on antibiotics.
Mm-hmm.
Tried the next morning to put them back together again. Thought, okay, well, if I go out here, let me see, because they were so adamant about, oh, my God, this is my sister, that's my brother, we have to be together.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, let me see what you'll do if I put you back together again.
Mm.
Well, immediately the sister mounts the brother, and the fight starts all over again. But because I was standing there, I had them both by the collar, so I threw one back in the house and left the one outside. So that day, I called one of my really good rescue friends and said, look, my dogs are fighting. You know, I might have to place one in a different home. I need help. So she put me in touch with another rescuer that is working with you, and she says, no, you don't need to get rid of both the dogs. You just need to go see Brandon. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when I came to you, I was the first to raise my hand and said, there is something that I am doing wrong.
Right.
It's not the dog, it's me. I am missing something here. I see what the problem is. It's a dominance issue, but I don't know how to fix it.
Right. That was so great, because most people, they don't realize that it's them. But I guess because of your profession, I mean, you know that a lot of the problems that you have with dogs are because of their owners.
Yes.
But I remember
and I've always told my clients that if the dog is behaving badly, it's not the dog's fault. It's your fault. We've either rewarded something that we shouldn't have been rewarding, or we've created a mindset in the dog that now has taken it away from where it should be. It's unbalanced it. So
Absolutely.
I knew that, hey, I didn't balance them. I need some help balancing them.
And you know what's interesting, that's why, you know, this show is here, because we are trying to direct people not to the symptom, the fact that the dog is fighting or biting or whatever it's doing, but the actual problem, where it lies, how we got here. That's what this show is all about. And and I remember when you came, you had come in 2 cars.
Yes.
Yeah, you had to bring one dog and one dog, right? And you know,
yeah, because I didn't want to put them in the car at the same time, because I didn't want to crash or have them fighting in the car. I had kept them separated until I got to you. So we had done the one dog out, one dog in, and I just said, well, if this is what I got to do, this is what I got to do.
Yeah, the crate and rotate. They call it the crate and rotate, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, I got to say something to you, Catherine. You know, I've seen so many dogs, you know, in my years of working with them. I call my place One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You know, I've seen just about everything, you know. And I remember when I was talking to you about your situation, you told me, yeah, this particular dog here, I think it was the Brindle one, was the problem.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
So you brought him into me. I'm looking at him. I'm saying, yeah, okay, where's the other dog? And then when the other dog came in, I said, well, there's your problem.
You sure did. You were like, he is not the problem. She is the problem.
You know, I'm mentioning that because, you know, a little while back when I used to talk to people and they used to tell me that this dog was a problem, I used to treat that dog, you know, to evaluate them. And now I learned, no. We got to see everybody in the family, you know, because the one that we think is the one is usually not the one. And I remember you were asking me, what? No, it got to be this one. It's got to be this one. And I said, no, it's not that one. It's this one, you know.
Right.
And I know people probably thought you were crazy because I know you brought them in 2 cars, and I told you when you come to pick them up, just bring one, remember?
They'll go home in one. And I said, thank God, this is what I need. Put them back together again.
Well,
so the separate dog life was kind of wearing me out. I was really tired.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of rescuers that are doing that. And even Johnny began to do that too. And there's a lot of people who are doing that because they don't understand that the things that they are doing to shape the dog is actually producing the aggression. And when we single that out, what are we really talking about? We're talking about love and affection.
Yeah.
Love and affection. You were doing everything to show your dogs that you loved them. Johnny was doing everything to show his dogs that he loved them. So where does the aggression come from? You know? It's just like a child that you give them everything they want. Why do they become aggressive?
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
There's no boundaries. There's no negative feedback. There's no repercussions for the bad behavior.
Exactly. And, you know,
Exactly.
in this world of positive reinforcement, love and affection, treats, training, we believe that discipline and domination is a bad word. That we don't need nature. We need clickers, treats, and training to solve our problems. And that's why we're in the big problem that we're in today.
Yeah, definitely.
And Johnny sees that now. He looks at all those toys. You know how difficult it is, Johnny, and I want you to tell the people how difficult it is for you to stop saying good boy.
Oh my gosh, yes, and it is extremely difficult. And we had so many toys and so many games, and that's what he did all the time. And it has been a struggle for me. I mean, I don't think people realize how hard it is to not talk to your dog. And it's been tough.
And you know, with that being said, I want to bring in Amanda. Amanda, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, you know, when he says it's so difficult to stop talking to your dog, I mean, I think that's where you are, right?
It really is. I mean, you're totally having to change your relationship with your dog and think about what they need opposed to what you like to do with them and what makes you feel good. And that's completely what I was doing with Tyson.
Wow. And I want you to tell the story of Tyson. But first, I want to know, Catherine, do you still have time or do you have a surgery?
Well, we kind of cutting it close.
Okay, well, no, I don't want to stop you. I want people's dogs to get fixed. And there could be your dog on the table being stitched up. But the bottom line, Catherine, you're at home now with your dogs, and tell the listeners how things are.
Yeah, everything's fine. Just like you said, my female was the problem. And once he started talking to me, I said, yes, she is the problem. I recognize that, but I didn't want to deal with it. So I just ignored her. And in doing that, I gave her a sense of entitlement.
Yes.
And I spoiled her.
Yes, you spoiled her.
So now that I'm doing what Brandon says, she understands, okay, no, I'm not in charge. He's in charge. And I'm fine with that.
Okay. And how's your husband taking it? I mean, he doesn't have that control anymore, huh?
Well, you know, he's having some issues too. So maybe I need to bring him with the dogs. They all need to go to doggy daycare, I think.
All right, Catherine. Well,
so he can understand what we're doing.
Right. He's got to be on the same page.
Yeah, he does.
Well, Catherine, I want to thank you for coming on, and you know, just keep in touch, and let's get your dogs back into daycare, and we got more things to do.
Oh, yeah, we're not finished with them by a long run. We got a long way to go with them.
All right, well, fantastic. Thanks for coming on.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Brandon.
You're very welcome.
Bye-bye.
Amanda?
Yes.
Can you tell our listeners what was happening with you and Tyson?
Sure.
This is very interesting.
We rescued Tyson when he was somewhere around 4 to 6 months. He had lived in a crack house. He knew that. He had a pretty tough life, had been in and out of the shelter at least a few times before we got him. Went to the shelter, saw him, seemed like a really obedient little dog, very attentive, didn't really see any issues with him behaviorally. Mm-hmm. So brought him home, and within the first day of having him, he had a neighbor come over, a child, and he growled at him. And we kind of dismissed it and thought, okay, well, he's a puppy and he's overwhelmed and new home and new life. And from that moment on, it has been a constant struggle with him. He's always had an issue with children. I don't know if he had a bad experience when he was younger or never was exposed correctly, but he's snapped at kids before, he's growled at kids, he's lunged at kids, and he's a 110-pound dog. He's a Mastiff Rhodesian mix, so he's a big boy.
Yes.
And nothing's been easy with him, and it's been hard to find a consequence or a way to discipline him because it is intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just been a struggle. We have always kept up our walks and made sure those were structured. We've always played ball with him. My husband played ball with him and played tug of war with him to keep, him in our heads stimulated and exercised, and did a lot of treat training and positive reinforcement training with him. And we've noticed over the past few years it has continued to, the behaviors have continued to grow.
Mm-hmm.
They've gotten worse, and they've showed their heads in different ways all over the place. I mean, we've had him snap at a few of our friends.
Mm-hmm.
His barking and going after the door when the doorbell rings is out of control.
Mm-hmm.
He comes when he wants.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there were a lot of these behaviors that just became extremely disruptive to our lives. And our way of dealing with it was to take him away from it. So he doesn't go out with us when we go out to do anything, because
right.
he's what I call him predictably unpredictable. You
right.
never know what you're going to get, and you never know what he's going to do.
So your life is shrinking. Your life is shrinking with him.
Completely.
Yeah.
Our life was modeled around what we could and couldn't do with the dog.
And what's interesting,
and
how old is he, Amanda Tyson?
He's about 4.5.
4.5. And Johnny,
mm-hmm.
how old is Jake? I mean, Ricky.
Riku is about a year and a half.
A year and a half. Isn't it interesting that when we talk about the behavior of dogs, how they start to change when they reach about a year and a half to 3 years old, people think that there's this big change that takes place within the dog. And in some ways they're correct in that the dog becomes what I like to say is a teenager. And I say teenagers because of what I said in the beginning of the show about the genes and how we can imprint on our dogs to become more human-like, okay? And this change that takes place, we're actually priming them up to become this thing. And Johnny, you could see this with the games and the things that you've given your dog.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I created a super dog. He is really good at what he does.
Right.
And I can see what I have created, and now he's great at biting dogs. And you know what I mean? Like, he's a super dog, and I created all of that. And
right.
and like you said, he's a teenager now, and he's showing it off, and he's proud, and it's a mess.
And same thing with Amanda. I mean, Amanda, with your husband. And I know with most guys, they want a big dog because, it's a guy thing. It's a macho thing. And we want to be tough with them and roughhouse with them. And we don't understand what we're producing.
Right.
Right. And like you have a baby now. Okay.
Yeah. And that's when the stakes got really high for us is, when I got pregnant is what are we going to do? But,
right.
It's not really something you can work with. I mean, whose kid can you borrow and say, hey, can I work with my dog around a kid? I mean,
right.
it's not something you can do. And so we chose not, unintentionally chose not to deal with it. And now that we have the baby, he did growl once at him. And that's when I said, we can't keep him anymore.
Yeah.
And we were at the end of our line. I mean, we just didn't know what to do. We were in total disparity of how to keep our family together and make it work. And that's when we came to you.
Right. It's interesting that when he did growl, and you say, well, wow, we can't use another kid to test him. And it's interesting how we start looking in the wrong direction, as if this dog has a problem. But usually the dog is only performing and doing what we taught them to do. So in order to find the solution to the problem, we have to look in. We have to go back to where did this originate from? How did this dog know how to use his mouth as a weapon?
Right.
Right?
Well, we taught him to. We told him it was okay.
Exactly. And that's why I always say when we're dealing with, the old term, I call it the old term, is nurture versus nature. I say genetic behaviors versus learned behaviors because I want people to know that this is a learned behavior. And if it's learned, it can be unlearned, but we have to learn where it came from, how we had a hand in this thing so that we don't turn around and point to the dog and say he's the problem. He's the symptom
Yeah.
of the problem, you know?
Right.
And
Right. And it was very clear once you pointed out. I mean, I would have never have guessed that all the things we were doing with Tyson were building him up to everything he was doing.
Exactly.
And then we were wondering, why is this happening?
Mm-hmm.
And it was very crystal clear after that exactly why he was doing it and exactly why we had no control over stopping it.
And you know another interesting thing, Amanda, you've known me longer than I've known you.
Very true.
And tell our listeners, how long have you known me?
You know, I heard about you, I don't know, a year or so ago. I have a friend that has taken his dog to see you, and the daycare that Tyson goes to has recommended you. And I, up until a while ago, was not really willing to, or not wanting to deal with the fact that I think I was going to have to start treating him in a different way. And I was going to have to start doing stuff that was very uncomfortable for me, and it still is on a daily basis. But it's a necessity at this point. And we learned that last week when we met with you, that within a day, we came home and saw change. And it was simple stuff. It wasn't rocket science. Anyone could do it, but it was uncomfortable for us to do it because we were treating our dog not like our child anymore. We were treating him like a dog. And I was constantly catching myself. I mean, the hardest part was not talking to him and telling him he was a good boy for everything he did, and treating him every 5 minutes for something that I shouldn't have to give him a treat for. I should just expect it of him.
You're listening, Johnny?
So,
Yes, I'm still here, yes.
Does that sound familiar?
That's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going through the same thing, and yeah, it's a struggle, and I was glad to hear you said the same thing. I'm still going every day. Every move I make, every day, I'm still struggling with it. It's getting easier, but it's tough not to love your dog that way.
And you know what's interesting is you were given this, okay? You were given this training. There was no option to it, okay? When our dogs have problems, we say train them. We sit, stay, down, heel, come, good girl, good boy.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, when you find yourself saying that to your dog, you've forgotten what I've said.
Yep, I think about that all the time.
Yeah.
And I thought about what you said to me, too, is why are you telling him to do those things? And now I think, why am I asking him to do that?
Yeah.
Like, why am I asking him to sit or wait? I'm telling him I'm avoiding something I don't want him to do.
Exactly.
Instead of making him deal with the repercussions of what happens if he does it.
That's the
and
word.
That was a light bulb for me.
That's the word I was looking for, the avoidance. See, that's the problem with the system that we have in place. It does not allow for you to move forward. You know, when I'm going to socialize with someone, when I socialize with you, Amanda, and Johnny, I had to come forward to meet you and greet you and get into your personal space and let's talk about some things, right? That's moving forward. That's socializing. That's what we really want to do with our dogs. We want them to be social with other dogs and people and things, but everything we do is going in the opposite direction. It's producing a mindset that we really don't want, but we do it because that's what society has told us to do for so long. And I'm saying we need to stop that now. We need to look at that because we're at this point where we're talking about killing dogs, and Amanda, you're talking about I got to give my dog up.
Right, which was not anything I took lightly, but we felt very desperate of what to do, if we could do anything, or if this is just the way he was. We didn't realize there was an option.
Yes, and remember I told you in my office how quickly he bonds with me will determine how bad he is?
Yeah.
And what did you see on those videos?
Yeah, I was surprised. It was pretty fast.
Now, what I really want you to tell people what you saw is how I taught you how to look at behavior that you had never seen in Tyson before on those videos.
Yeah, I mean, there was lots of video that I watched from his evaluation, and I would have watched that and never have understood the behavior that I saw and how it was correlating to the issues we were having at home. That it would have never had made sense to me. But once it was explained to me, it made perfect sense. Oh, well, this is why he's doing that. And this is, it was just crystal clear after that, of the behaviors we were having at home correlated to the behaviors he had with the other dogs in your pack and with you.
Right, exactly. And you can see that he has been catered to by people, and he feels that people are weak. And in the feeling that people are weak, he feels possessive over people. There's a lot of people who say, well, this dog will go into a home and become possessive over one member of the family and become aggressive towards everybody else. This is what I'm talking about. And you can see in the video that he, after he bonded with me, he now wanted to be possessive of me.
Right.
Dominant of the other.
Right.
This is a learned behavior.
Yeah. And it made no sense. I mean, I would have watched that and never had understood why he was doing that or how it was correlating to the issues in our home. But it made perfect sense afterwards. Johnny's
the same way.
Because you think you have a dog that has issues and they've had him for so long, you think, well, there's no way he can unlearn those problems.
Right.
But within a day, I had some of the issues we were having were, I mean, they were, I don't want to say fixed because he is definitely a work in progress, but I mean, we went from a 10 to like a 2 really fast.
Good. That's what I want to hear.
And that was big.
Yeah, that's huge. You know, and Johnny was the same way. I wanted people to understand with Johnny, he was, when I talk about giving a dog all the things we think they want, and then when you start giving them what they need, how you see a different dog.
Right.
Johnny was giving his dog everything he thought he would want, but this was making a neurotic dog.
Yeah, and Brandon, I also, you know, I was feeding into what kind of dog he was because you had asked, what kind of dog do you want? Or why do you have a dog? Well, really, the only reason I want a dog is just to hang out and you know, be my friend and do some stuff together. But really, that was it. But when I found out, you know, you YouTube, Dutch Shepherd, and then finding out that they can climb 2-story ladders and do all this agility work, and they're police dogs, and they're search and rescue. So I thought that I would have been fine doing nothing with my dog. You know what I'm saying? Just him and I hanging out. But once I found out what kind of breed he was, I felt like it was my duty to fulfill his needs. Yeah. He needs to be doing all that stuff because he's got all this energy, and that's what I thought I had to do. So I shifted gears right away and started into this extreme training and taught him how to retrieve, and I was going to build this obstacle course, and there was, you know, so... And now I realize you don't need any of that, man. He's just a dog. Yeah. He just needs to hang out.
This is how we get lost, man. We don't need it. Exercise is very overrated. I mean, if we had Catherine back on the line, she'd tell you how many dogs come in with torn ACLs because of us, making them jump over things and chase things. You know, we're creating the problem. And that's why what we're doing here is so important. We're going to have to change some of those books and talk about something that's more important rather than bringing out the predatory side in our dog. You know, he's a dog, but he has more to him that makes him what he is, that gene, other than that predatory instinct. It's so important. And before I forget, I want to remind people, and I'll be doing it next Thursday too, that you'll have to tune into 89.3 KPCC. This is next Thursday, and the topic is dangerous breed, dog or man, and it's at the Crawford Family Farm in Pasadena, California. The address is 474 South Raymond Avenue. I think the doors open at 6:30 to 7. We'll make sure about that. But I also have heard that it may already be sold out, but it will be a live video stream, so you can tune in and check it out and listen about what's going on, you know. And we want to try to save these dogs' lives, but we're going to have some different information to do it, man. And we got a long road, but it's not that far to go. So we're at the hour now, and I want to say thank you to Catherine, our veterinarian. Amanda, I want to thank you, and I want to thank you, Johnny, for coming on and talking about your problem and letting people know that there is another way. And once you get on that road, it's really not that difficult. The difficulty that we will find is ourselves stopping the habit that we have produced. Because the dog will follow if we're on top of it. Am I right, Johnny and Amanda? Do you feel the same way? Okay.
The hard part is
absolutely
retraining yourself.
There you go. Well, thanks again, and I want everyone to tune in next Thursday at 1 o'clock p.m., same time, same place, at this radio show, latalkradio.com. Thank you.
You're listening to Fouché Way with Brandon Fouché, right here on LA Talk Radio.